Hello, Roger. So good to have you with us again. This is like the 11th video that we do together, or
Yeah,
something like that.
that's pretty mind blowing, isn't it? 11
Amazing.
videos.
Yeah, we started chatting many years ago. I was still living in Egypt, and
Hmm.
yeah, it was your out and about blogs that I resonated and related so much my own experiences. So I'm so glad that we're still chatting and that you are still
Yeah.
sharing your insights and your valuable information as well. So welcome everyone that is joining. If you haven't met Roger, he is a dear friend, although we haven't met in the physical. He is a composer and a musical director, and he is also a communicator with Star Family and Star Allies, and he has a lot of wisdom to share and a lot of message that is very relevant for this time now on planet Earth as we entering a new epoch. So welcome, Roger.
Yeah, thank you. Always a joy to get together here with our videos. I'm trying to record this outside in our, on our deck. So we'll see how it goes. If there's fire engines or who knows what, we might have to regroup inside, but it's such a nice day. So I thought, let's just try it here.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm loving the birds. So at the moment is all birds background, so that's nice.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, I'll let you start the conversation because I know that you have a lot to share.
Hmm.
For the people listening, I
Hmm.
will add all of Roger's information and details on how to find him in the what you call that below the video.
Hmm.
And he is now on Substack, which is very exciting. And so you can also find all of his writings and materials on his Substack page, which I'll also add below this video.
Yeah, thank you. Well, in all of our videos, I've stressed how I'm working in collaboration with Michael Perfetto, who's a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner. And one of the messages that came to me several years ago was the importance of working in pairs. And so that's what Michael and I are doing, and certainly what Anouk and I are doing in our videos. And just trying to think where to start with this. In one of the sessions that I had with Michael in doing medical qigong together, I've been working with Michael since 2017, and we started with acupuncture. And then in about mid 2018, we switched over to medical qigong. And what we found is during the energy work, all kinds of higher level experiences were happening. Uh, Visions of star beings helping us, energetic presences, um, images, short messages. Um, some of the messages would just be one word, and great meaning would come out of that one word. And so, with that background in mind, for several weeks, I had been hearing the word July in my mind. And for much of that time, it was just hearing the word July. But a couple weeks ago, in fact, I think it was May 22nd, uh, Friday, uh, I again heard July, but now more began to come to me. Um, it expanded to having a sense of about the second week of July. So I got my calendar out and did a pendulum reading over each day in that week. And when I came to the 9th and the 10th, it was a very, very, very strong reading. And then immediately after that, a vision came to me of a formation of star crafts, and they were doing a flyover above the east coast of the U.S. I saw them coming down from north to south, and so I really had to think about that, try to get more of what that meant. And I need to say up front that I don't do predictions. Um, Over the years, I've seen too many examples of uh, people in what you might call the spiritual community coming up with predicting one thing or another, and invariably the day would come and pass, and life would just continue on. Um, and in the sessions with Michael, predictions don't come to us as messages. So this thing about July and a starcraft flyover, that is highly unusual for what I do and what I experience. Um, and then I got a little bit more insight into the starcrafts, because I was curious uh, about whether this would be a situation kind of like Phoenix Lights, where a huge number of people saw these crafts. Um, well, took place in nighttime, so it would have been seeing their lights. But I got that this is something very different. The crafts would be in a higher vibrational frequency range. So I'm not getting that, people are going to be seeing these, as a physical appearance. Rather, what I was getting is that people will be able to experience them energetically in higher levels of their own consciousness. At least that's what I'm getting at this point. Uh, so it was kind of funny because at first I thought, well, should I really be writing a message and sharing this, like on Facebook? Excuse me. So I kind of worked with that a little bit. And finally, I thought, got to do it, got to put it out there. And one of the things that I also remembered is I can't remember when. I think it was in kind of the early time. Excuse me. I might be getting some pollen out here. And think the early time frame that I was starting to work with Michael, one of the things that I talked with him about was the idea of disclosure. And what came to me at the time, and this is what I said to Michael, is that um, given the relationship and connections that we have with our star friends and um, various councils that we experience, that I would think that our star friends would let us know, when disclosure might be happening. So with that in mind, I thought, well, okay, I guess this, like whatever this July business is, I need to share this. So I did that. I put that message out in my blog and then on Facebook. And then the last session that I had with Michael, that would have been last week. I might have been the 26th, perhaps. It was Tuesday last week. Um, our energy work started, and right off the bat, I felt myself in a meeting with one of the star councils, and I saw us inside the structure in the Arcturus system that I've had many experiences with. And with the council, this is the way that I described it in my blog, that I sensed a great deal of excitement happening with the council members. And then I heard something to the effect of, if you need a confirmation, and I understood that it was about disclosure. So if you need a confirmation, this is it. So that really made me smile. But then, even more so, the next message that I heard, you can take it to the bank. And when I heard that in my mind, I just cracked up and said, Michael, you're not going to believe this. And then after that, then I saw myself with the at the university in the Alcyon star system, and I saw myself with the uh, Palladian post disclosure project team that I've been working with, and the message that I got from the team was, we are ready. So these are some of the messages that have been coming to me, and uh, Anouk, as you and I have been talking about, I don't see my work being in the same lane as what I would call governmental disclosure, or disclosure through corporations that are doing reverse engineering, or whistleblowers or insiders or anything like that. I see the lane that I'm working in is through consciousness, and it's open to all of humanity. It's for humanity to experience through various means themselves, as individual people connecting with higher levels of themselves. That's how I see my role, and I see this as being a process, a process of unfoldment, a process of remembrance. Um, I think there will be a time when there will be governmental disclosure, and I see this happening way beyond just the U.S. There'll be many countries globally that will do this, um, but I just don't have a real good feeling about governmental disclosure, at least at first. It's just I just can't help that it's going to be distorted in some way. It's hard for me to accept how after 80 years, plus or minus, um, in effect, the same people that have been ridiculing UFOs and saying it's
Mm.
weather balloons or swamp gas, and ridiculing people that come forward about sightings and experiences, how they will be the ones that will come clean about all this.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I have a lot of respect for what you share, because I know you are sharing it for exactly that, for the purpose of um, higher consciousness, and everyone who is listening or who isn't listening being able to really hone in that they are what I call transceiver. So you're able to receive and emanate intelligence, and you are in collaboration at all times with the cosmos, even though a lot of the time we haven't been fully aware or fully awake in that level of being, right? For you,
Yes.
it
Mhm.
has been so much about timing through I know that you're doing the Mayan calendar, and through energy work, through cleansing your systems with qigong and with medical qigong, and the work that you do, as you say, in pairs. This has all in many ways upgraded your sensitivity and your ability to filter and register information. And so super grateful that you are sharing all of that, because I truly believe the more we share, the more we put it out there, the more people can realize that we don't need some big name to tell us that, we are not alone in the universe, or further that we can collaborate with universal intelligence.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring the part of the
Yes.
astrological alignment of. So we have what is known as modern planets or outer planets or collective. They are very much assisting the collective, and so we can look at them as a marker that there is a leap in consciousness on the way, or we are right in the middle of it, rather. And this is it's Pluto. So Pluto has moved into Aquarius, which is all about looking at structures and looking at systems, and then it is about making it functional for the people. And then on some level, this energy is translated as what no longer serves us. And a lot of this is coming out into the open. And so many more people are becoming aware that a lot of the systems that maybe were great in the 1950s no longer serve this time cycle. And then we have Neptune, which I call the divine dreamer, which is a higher octave of Venus, the planet of love. This is the planet of the divine. This is the frequency of knowing thyself, knowing that you are part of the divine. And if you could have a vision or a memory or a dream of the divine and what even the divine is dreaming, it would be the point of Neptune in your chart. This is a generational planet. All of the ones I'm talking about are generational planets because they move very slowly. So it is a chunk of time where many of us are born with that one planet in the same placement, which again talks about the collective, talks about how we are landing on planet Earth, incarnated, as you and me, and having a collective agreement to move through divinity, to move through looking at power, or the misuse of power. And then the third planet is Uranus, and Uranus is known as the Great Awakener. So this is the higher mind. This is the intelligence that is in the ethers, in plasma, and how it now will be very much. I don't even know what the word would be. I wanted to say the speed of light, but it's going to be very fast. So when we are looking at AI and we might ask a question and all of a sudden there's all this list of things very, very fast. Well, that is not separate from who we are and our own innate technology. And Uranus in Gemini. Sorry, did I say Pluto was in Aquarius? I meant Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. And Gemini, the communicator, is the point that activates all of the intelligence coming through. So think electrical currents and think of fast speed. intelligence information that translates very fast through our own central nervous system. And this is why it's so important to be at one with the body and be at one with the energy that you hold. And yes, maybe choose a practice that makes you land within yourself and make you feel at ease or at peace or at oneness, such as qigong or some kind of meditation or focus, because that is where we are now. We are at the threshold, as I said many times, we are literally at the point of where a new civilization is evolving. It's moving into place of what was humanity. So I know it sounds like, what does it mean? Does it mean, oh, humanity is gonna be extinct and some other beings are gonna land on Earth? No, we are that. We are that. And the choice is, do we remain in the old world and doing our, whatever stages that we've done forever, or do we literally mind bend our way into new potentials, into new realities, including what would be the word, accepting or being open to the fact that we are not alone and that we have a lot of support, and that at the same time we are not separate. Therefore, we are also stars from the stars ourselves. We are the micro in the macro. So this alignment, because you were mentioning July, begins. So there are three planets moving, and they're all going to be at the fourth degree within their own modal points, that they're places in the sky that we know as constellations. And it starts on the 7th of July, and the main point is July 18th. This has not occurred. So this outer planets coming together with the other alignments has not occurred since 1770, 1775, because there were retrogradations, so they were replaying the same for a while. And that coincides with the US War of Independence and also the Industrial Revolution in Europe. So, just to say that this is a marker of evolution, and whichever way we are going to play that out, obviously, is up to the consciousness of the collective. If we choose to move that in a benevolent way, which is very possible because there is a lot of really good things happening in the sky in June, which kind of shine a light of what is coming. Sorry, in June, so what is coming in July is certainly beneficial for humanity. Of course, we're in the middle of dismantling and imploding and, yes, cracking open things that we weren't willing or able to look at, and all of that also looks a bit confusing or chaotic, but there is a perfection in the universe. Yes, Roger, you want to say something?
Well, actually, I was really processing everything you said because it's very deep stuff. I was just reflecting on, when I walk out to get the newspaper and, start to look at the headlines. And, of course, then my wife Nancy and I are talking about it over breakfast. And, it's like one outrage after another. And it seems like it's outrages trying to outrage one another. I mean, it just keeps continuing. Um, and so, in one sense, here we are talking about a process of humanity evolving into higher consciousness, or what I might say, like better versions of themselves. And, like we have all of these terrible things happening in the world, happening in this country, things that we, not that many years ago could not have conceived uh, could happen. And here they are happening. So it seems like, wow, how could there indeed be a process of evolving into higher levels of ourselves when all of these terrible things are happening and it seems like things are just going in a downward spiral. And what seems to me is that for those of us that have experienced a family member that have has had severe problems, uh, perhaps like with alcohol or drug abuse or mental health issues. Um, in many cases, the person really can't be open to receiving help. Like we try to speak with them in very gentle, loving ways, and there's just a reluctance to try to do what we're suggesting. And in some of those cases, the person just has to bottom out and then come to some understanding themselves, that they have to do something. And I wanted to mention that because I think this is what's happening in a collective way in certainly in the US and in other countries around the world. Um, it's been my sense that in order for people to work together that have different perspectives or different worldviews, that things have to get to a point where they're saying, this isn't working. What I thought was what I wanted is not working for me. And I think people have to uh, have a certain amount of pain when it comes to their finances, when it comes to having gas for their cars and food for their families, that things unfortunately just have to get painful. And then it's my hope that people will start to see one another, as fellow humans, everyone trying to live their own lives. So I think we're in this process of. I don't think we've quite bottomed out yet, but I think we're probably getting close. Um, and then I think we can begin to relate to one another as people and forget the labels, forget the political identifications. Let's see one another as people. Trying to live their lives. Because I know people that have a very different perspective of life, and they're very good people. But they have a worldview that is very different from mine. And if we don't talk about politics, we're great together. So I'm hoping that this will expand outward to what I think is really going to be a rebirth of this country. And it is remarkable that, here it is 250 years. And I have had visions of the revolutionary time frame. And I do see some parallels. And I think we grew up in this country having kind of a myth or like a romanticized version of the American Revolution. The Revolution was messy. There were many people in this country that still identified themselves as being British. Um, and they, and they remained loyal to the crown. A lot of people. Uh, so I guess we're just going to have to see how this unfolds. But uh, just as with a person bottoming out, there's help. There's usually family help. It can be very hard in some cases. The rest of the family might have gotten so burned, that they have a hard time trying to continue to help the person. But oftentimes there's still some family. There's social services. There's different ways that a person can be helped. And so with humanity, I see us being surrounded with help. I see us being surrounded by love from our star family. Um, Whenever Michael and I have a medical qigong session, immediately there's a sense of presence in the room, that we're surrounded not just with a few star beings, but a whole bunch. Um, wow, it's just so heartwarming, and we don't have to do anything to have that connection. It's just with us. And I would say that for each and every person having a human incarnation, in a similar way, they are surrounded with higher level help. They, like in many cases, they just don't know about it, or they haven't sensed it, but it's there. And as they evolve and able to live, in higher qualities of, love and empathy and cooperation, um, as they tap into these higher qualities,
Mm.
then, as you and I have talked about, there can be a frequency match of like attracts like. And as we tap into higher levels of love ourselves, that's the meeting ground that we can experience with our star friends, because they are beings of love.
Yeah, thank you so much. And just to frame that for the people listening, there is the, I don't know if it's called the law of non-interference, but the aspect of life forms that are supporting humanity will not interfere in our evolution, because, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to be our own our own push, our own energy that
Yeah.
starts the new the new cycle. Otherwise, we are not going to make it. It needs to come from that deep space within. Uh, Also, thank you for mentioning the division or the discord or the warble that is when we are wanting to guide our life through separation. And I call that anything: religion, political views, anything that causes separation. We could
Mm-hmm.
call that fear as well. That is a regressive mind. And if there is anything that I can add here, is we can only evolve by literally evolving, right? And nobody is immune to evolution. It's happening. It's what we are moving into. We're all moving into the future. So to remain in a constriction of choosing, let's say, separation and fear, cannot cannot create the opposite, which is
Mm-hmm.
expansion, vitality, and yeah, a future that we haven't yet experienced, a future that is the opposite of that, that would be unity, collaboration, certainly deep empathy. And for me so far, because yeah, I am in that with all of us, right? The deep empathy doesn't feel like it is, oh, it doesn't matter what you do, I still love you. But it's the in my sense, is that I see your journey and I see the point that you are at and where you've reached. And I have all desire to see you move from that. I feel that that for me is the empathy of an advanced civilization or of an advanced society, that we don't need to do the, you know, the blame and shaming, or even taking sides, or survival of the fittest, all of that stuff that we've already played out. We've done that. I think most of us have learned that
Yeah.
that's not evolution. So yeah, that's my bit on that. And thank you so much for bringing that up. That we do have all the help, and yeah, inspiring words, Roger. Thank you.
Hmm. What this tells me is that the Earth is a school, and the one of the particular things that makes the Earth special in the universe is that we have all of these different classes, all of these different lessons that people come here to experience. All of this stuff is happening simultaneously, and this is why I think that right now things seem like they're such a mess, um, because I think there really is like a convergence and an intensification of the lessons and experiences. Um, and so just like once one has graduated from the third grade, we were talking about this in our last video. Once someone graduates from the third grade as an example and goes into the fourth grade and higher and higher, you don't need to keep repeating the same thing that you learned in the third grade. So I think humanity is at a point of graduation. Like we've had enough wars. We've had enough mass murders and all of this stuff. Political fighting. We've had enough of this. And again, I think we're not quite bottoming out, but I think we are getting closer. So when we've bottomed out, we collectively say we need to do something better. We want our lives to be better. We want things better for our children and grandchildren. Then I think we can walk through that door of a higher class. And then I think that's when like what we're calling disclosure. That's when it will really open up things for humanity to begin to experience the things right now for many people will be beyond our imagination, or what will seem like a science fiction movie. Um, yeah, and I think it's just going to be incredible. And so then, I think it might be the pollen. So when Michael and I have visions of possible future for humanity, it's incredible stuff.
Mm.
It's nothing like um, like social apocalypse or, the world end, excuse me, ending or anything like that. It's, excuse me. Okay, sorry everybody. I think the pollen was getting me. Um, think what I was trying to say is that the future that I see for humanity, it's beyond beautiful.
Mm.
It's being able to work in collaboration with so many uh, star civilizations that are working for us and rooting for us. I see humanity evolving into an interstellar people. Um, and we cannot be an interstellar people if we continue being what we are right now. We cannot take conflict, hatred, war into the stars. Uh, the star civilizations that are helping us, they evolved beyond that millions of years ago. Um, so we need to become like them, and I think of them as being like big brothers and big sisters, parents, grandparents, that are trying to help us grow up. I think that's the simple thing. Humanity needs to grow up.
Yeah, it's time. It's time. As you said, it's a graduation, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, thank you. And can you talk a little bit about the way that I know I feel that too. The way that we're having a parallel kind of like a parallel life where we are very busy in the stars and at the same time we're having this life over here. How would you, I mean, is there anything that you can share on that perspective?
Yeah, we've talked about this in some of our other videos, but each time that question comes up, I think there's a little bit more we can say, or maybe a little bit more clarity that we've experienced since our last video. So for me right now, in very simple terms, it's realizing that who we are is multidimensional. It's beyond having a single life as a human on this one planet. Uh, we are like a vast universe. And when we tap into higher levels of ourselves, we see ourselves not as human, but as star beings. And I'll go even further of star beings, not necessarily from one star system, but numerous star systems. So we can tap into this higher identity of ourselves as being not just citizens of one country or even citizens of the world. It's being citizens of the cosmos. Mhm.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And as you coined the phrase an interstellar people, I feel it is super important right now to know that you are a part of that lineage and that you have,
Mhm.
wherever we call it, a purpose to be on earth, a mission to fulfill on earth, a desire to be part of something greater than ourselves. And it goes back to collaboration and
Mhm.
and being the force, ourselves being the force that moves the old machine forward into
Mhm.
something new, as you see, the beauty of the future. I
Right.
see that too. I see the struggle of humanity to adapt and the adaptation phase in many ways we are now right now. And then I see that in my clients, especially when we're out, as in we are in Egypt. I see how fast all of a sudden, like I literally see people like holding their heads and going, like I can feel they're saying, wait a minute, what? And then understanding something that they couldn't quite comprehend before. And I think it's because we are in a group of people that are in the same wavelengths and the same frequency, all allowing ourselves to see a little bit more than what we would see or experience. Yeah, being open to the magic of the universe. And yeah, it's such an honor to see, to witness, one single human. But as you saw in the future, there are many of us that are not gonna even be in that state of, wow, wait, what just happened? I just opened my mind and I see so much more. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. This goes back to the Earth being a multi-grade school or multi-level school. That just think of well, just like high school. You come in as a freshman, and you might be picked on by some of the seniors or something like that. But even just those 4 or 5 years, there's a tremendous amount of difference between entering as a freshman and then graduating as a senior. You know, a,
Mm,
a huge amount of uh, coming into greater and greater maturity. Of course, even as a high school senior, we're still pretty much immature, but at some point we do become a mature adult. Um, but yeah, this I, I I think the image of the school is so helpful because, like, we look around what's happening in our lives, reading the newspapers, hearing the news, and if we think of it in terms of uh, levels of school or levels of consciousness, it really helps. And of course, that's not to be judgmental because um, everyone everyone before coming into human incarnation, was a higher level spiritual being. And if we get all judgmental, we're looking at people in a very limited way. And a message that came to me, I think this might even go back to 2017 when I started working with Michael. Um, I'm not sure if I remember the exact words, but in effect, it was like, um, think of other people as classmates in school rather than being as an enemy.
mm,
And that really speaks to me because if we see one another as classmates, each of us came here for a reason. We came here for specific lessons. We came here in putting together a life plan, to have specific lessons. And so if we see someone who has a very different worldview than us, or someone that's struggling with addiction or struggling with who knows what,
mm.
that's their lesson. That's their plan. So it really doesn't serve us well to get all judgmental with other people.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Wow, it's been always so much gifting, in all of that you share. Is there anything else that you want to share? I I read a lot of your new things. I know you've been posting a lot of the already published out and about blog onto Substack, and I've been looking at that. Is there
Yeah,
anything new
I
that
would
you
just
can share?
encourage people to go to my website, rogeraldridge.com, and you'll see all of the out and about blogs. Each one is a collection of 1 year's experience. So we go from out and about one, which was 2017, to now currently out and about 12, which of course is 2026. And then if you scroll down, you'll see some newer things. First, you'll see a heading that says disclosure. I felt a strong leading to go ahead and do that, to go ahead and put that out, and don't hesitate. Don't hesitate about it. So I went ahead and did that on my website, and then it has a link to an article that actually I first wrote for Substack, and then I also put it on my website. Um, what that has is that I was really curious about how messages about disclosure evolved with Michael and myself. So I went through all of my blogs and saw when the word disclosure was used. So this article is all about that, and it gives the occurrence of the occurrences of the word disclosure. So I would encourage people to look at that document. And then below that is people will see a heading about encounters collections. Uh, a couple years ago, it occurred to me that there's so much material in my out and about blogs, and in fact, just recently, I went through them and totaled them up, and we're very close to 500 blog entries, and that blew my mind. That Michael and I have had that many occurrences, or dreams that have come to me, or messages that have come to me. Um, because when I told Michael about that, I joked with him, and I said, for like a lot of people, having just one of these things happen, would be life changing. Uh,
Mm.
but the fact that there's just so much material there, it'd be very hard for someone, in particular, if they're new, to my blog series, it'd be very difficult for them to wade through that much material. So I began to think about specific topics that I thought might be of interest to people. And then I went through my blogs, and then I put them into these collections. So some of the topics, it started with Robert Monroe and Rosie McKnight, because various experiences have come to Michael and myself with them, even though they've passed on. And then some of the experiences like Star Nations technology, um, let's see, the Electra system and the Pleiades, Arcturus and Alnilam, Mars. Um, see what else? So the Star Nations teams, off-planet schools, equality in the stars. There's probably some others, but these are some of the ones that come to my mind. So these are all collections that people can go through. Like pick a topic that interests you and go through it, and then you'll see the blog entries that have to do with that. But again, I would really encourage people to look at the disclosure article, because I think we really are in a transition time that I think is going
Mm.
to accelerate very quickly. I can't help but think that.
I thought I lost you there for a minute. Yes, thank you so much. I will add below on the details of the video. I already made a note for myself to add a link directly to disclosure so that I
Hmm.
can go directly there.
Yeah. One thing that just I felt a tap on the shoulder just now. Uh, people people need to use every ounce of discernment that they can muster. Cause like I had this vision of like two rivers or two streams coming together, or like energetic polarity, like a negative and a positive coming together, and there may very well be some fireworks. That word just came to me in the two poles. You know, I think there's going to be a lot of how would I put this? A lot of things that isn't exactly truth. I think there's
Absolutely.
going to be a lot of what has been negative agendas. Uh, there's reasons why humanity is being kept in the dark, and there's reasons why various uh, forces have had it in their interest to keep humanity in the dark. Um, yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot that we have to be careful about. We need to use our discernment. Um, with discernment, I think we need to tap into our higher qualities, our higher energetic qualities of love, empathy, cooperation, collaboration, caring for one another. Um, we need to tap in to that level, and then from that level of higher perception, then see how some of the information about disclosure feels. We need to do it from a feeling level. If it feels like it's like a lower level or kind of darkish thing, or anything promoting fear, anything promoting separation,
Mhm.
those are red flags. At least they are for me, and I would encourage others to think about those being red flags for you, because the star natures are not about separation. They're not about fear. They're about unity, love. Um, um, yeah, all of those good qualities. So I would just again suggest that people kind of beware and uh, tap into their higher qualities of discernment, because I think again I think there's going to be a lot of stuff being thrown around. I'm seeing a lot of dark stuff being thrown around on Facebook as an example about discernment, and it does not speak to me.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that point up.
Hmm.
And again, I want to add that in my view, there is no such thing as artificial intelligence. It's a feed loop. And yes, it's practical at times. But if you were to not be sure and you were to ask AI, then be versed with that universe and be versed with the fact that it's not artificial. It is grabbing information for us. And the same way that it's a tool and you can literally collect information and create a document, so can we. We can be that collects from the ethers, from nature, from putting our feet on the ground, from taking 10 minutes to breathe with a tree, to do qigong. We can collect the information without needing to be fed the information through
Hmm.
other ways. including including what we call artificial, because
Mhm.
it's coming from a source, and and the sources that are being collected from,
Right.
right? I think I want to say have an agenda. So the opposite to that is have agency, have your own being, be your own um, cosmic informer, be your own um, radio station that is it's
Exactly.
clean and clear, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
I've had real mixed experiences with AI. My experiences are limited, but being curious, a couple weeks ago, I put in an AI question um, about describing my music. And what was really interesting is that for much of the response, it was pretty good. But then it gave me credit for composing a film score that I didn't do. So I have absolutely no idea where it got that information that I had written music for this particular film because, it wasn't true. And in a similar way, I've asked some questions, um, and I've received a part of an answer that I know 100% was not correct. So when we're trying to talk about things having to do with the star nations, is an example. One thing to keep in mind is that back in the day when I worked in IT and was starting to learn about computer programming, there was a old adage about garbage in, garbage out. And I think that holds true today because stepping back, it's clear, exactly as you said, this is kind of like a higher level method of computer programming. You have to put in information, you have to put in the data to get information out. And so what's coming out is entirely dependent on what's gone in. And it's common sense to me that if we're talking about higher dimensional beings, AI is only being programmed in third and fourth dimensional information. So it has no frame of reference whatsoever for fifth dimensional life and above. So again, yeah, we really have to take AI with a grain of salt.
I love that. Thank you. Love that. I love that. And as you mentioned before, even the people that, as you say, maybe the ones that most of the crowds would be wanting to listen or even expecting to bring some kind of forefront news of disclosure, then also look back into how they live their lives or into stuff that they said before. As you said, the same person that said one thing may come out with another, and the value of that is it's up to your own filter. So uh,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Discernment and being a being the one that knows how to receive that, I want to say directly rather than third party, as you do by being fully quiet and at peace with yourself, and you are able to be at one with these intelligences that you are not, and I believe this, correct me if I'm wrong, you're not looking for connection, right? It's just constant
Mhm.
and present all the time because you are in frequency match with. with this information intelligence. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. And again, it also goes back to who we are as being not just human, but we have universes of life within us, within our life continuum. So again, it goes back to discovering who and what we are as much more than who we think we are. Yeah,
So much more,
yeah,
which feels good.
yeah.
Which feels good. So yeah, thank you so much, dear Roger.
Well, we did it again, number 11.
Yes, well done
Sorry,
us.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about the pollen getting me, but it was such a nice day, and I kind of wanted to show
Perfect.
you guys our
And
backyard too, because Nancy has beautiful flower gardens back here, and I guess you're just seeing maybe one tree, but uh,
yeah.
on this lattice here, we're starting to have some morning glories, you
Oh,
know,
I love those.
winding their way up.
I love those.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, dear Roger. I am beyond honored to be having this conversation with you once again, and I will look forward to more. Thank you so
Indeed,
much.
indeed.
Have a
See you
beautiful.
around the campus.
Yes, I love that. Absolutely. As you know, I had that dream that I was with you in the campus.
Yep, yep,
Thank
yep,
you.
absolutely.
Much love.
Okay.
Much
Bye,
love.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay.